If you were a fan of Top Gear as a kid, you might remember a scene from the Polar Special which first aired in 2007, where James and Jeremy stopped to have a look at an American plane wreck. And if you take a look at Google Maps, you'll see that the plane is still there, near the now abandoned Issershun weather station. But what exactly is the story behind the plane? Well, after World War II, Canada and the United States entered a joint venture to create a weather station, which is now known as Issershun. It was built in northern Canada around an area known for having some of the most unforgiving weather conditions in the country. Travelling to and from this weather station could only reasonably be done by plane. Helicopters simply didn't have enough fuel, and the cycle of freezing oceans meant that boats could only gain access in specific times in the year. The aircraft that they found was a military-spec C-47, a plane first commissioned in December 1941 as the United States joined World War II. It was used to carry between 18 and 22 paratroopers at the time, who would parachute out of the aircraft into enemy territory. Since more than 10,000 of them were produced, many of the military C-47s were decommissioned from military use after World War II, including the one that featured in the Polar Special. Thanks to a website called Old Wings, I'm able to provide you with these details along with the exact date of the crash. I've linked this website in the description if you'd like to read the story of the plane for yourself. Having been decommissioned from the military, the C-47 had then been used to travel to and from the weather station in northern Canada. On the 8th of October 1949, it had spent the night sitting on the Issershun airstrip. During the course of the night, a buildup of ice had formed on the wings, and the following morning, only the windscreen of the aircraft was de-iced with alcohol before it took off. In addition, the aircraft had been overloaded. The pilot faced tricky crosswinds, and the landing strip had seen 5 inches of snow over the course of the night. Ultimately, the cause of the accident was simply the plane failing to take off properly. It managed to get airborne twice, but was never able to gain enough altitude, and so the skis on the plane hit a shallow riverbank and buckled. The aircraft then slid along the ice for a fair amount of time before coming to a stop. There were 10 people on board and 3 suffered minor injuries. 5 days later, on the 14th of October 1949, the team were rescued and everybody returned home safely. In the Polar Special, James and Jeremy reflected on how awful it would be to crash in the middle of a freezing cold wasteland unprepared, but as it happened, the wreckage of the C-47 sits only 3 kilometers away from where it took off, at the now abandoned weather station of Issershun. Because so many of these planes were produced in World War II and the aircraft suffered such extensive damage, there was no reason to put a salvage operation together, and the wreck has now been sat in the middle of nowhere for more than 74 years. Just for reference, the Issershun weather station is the place Jeremy and James wandered around arguing about whether or not crockery found in an abandoned Arctic settlement was interesting or not. The record high temperature here is 22 degrees Celsius and the record low is almost minus 60 degrees Celsius.